Hi everyone, my name is Brandon Dotson. This is my overview for Module 1. You can see here a picture of my family. It's myself, my wife Chelsea, and my son Caleb, who just turned 10. A little bit about myself. I'm a certified home inspector. I do property management, I do home inspections, I do handyman services, a whole lot of everything to keep me busy. I currently teach at Valley View School District. It's in Archibald, PA. We're a little north of Scranton, up in the corner of the state. For Valley View, I teach Project Lead the Way. We just started the program. I teach the first course, the Introduction to Engineering Design. I got my bachelor's degree from Millersville, and my wife Chelsea is a nurse. Another picture of my son, who is acting like a goofball like usual. So from the YouTube video, the first thing I commented on was the good teaching is good teaching. I've actually used this line in several interviews. People have asked me, you're a shop teacher, could you teach metals? Could you teach wood? Could you teach drafting? I've on several occasions told them that I could teach science, math, English, or whatever they wanted to, as long as they gave me the book the night before and I had enough time to prepare, because I've always felt that this statement is true, that a good teacher is good at teaching anything. They're not just good at teaching one subject. A good teacher will find ways to make any circumstance work for them. A lack of books, a lack of equipment, a lack of windows in their room, or anything that could keep them from teaching. A good teacher will find a way to work with those circumstances. And I think the same goes for whether you're an online teacher or whether you're a brick and mortar teacher. If you find yourself in a situation, you find a way to make that situation work. There are exceptional teachers, however, that just would not excel in any kind of virtual environment. I've known a few of them. I've known a couple old school teachers who were phenomenal teachers, who could teach circles around me in a brick and mortar school, but they would not do well without the face-to-face interaction, without that ability to interact with their kids face-to-face every day. And I think another part of what makes a good teacher is the stuff that's outside of education. Hey, you had a bad day, let's talk about it. Hey, you didn't make the soccer team, let's talk about it. Those kind of things that I think the online environments don't allow for. But I also think that good teaching is very dependent on your definition of good. There are people who are excessively well known for, their content knowledge or their ability to do math or to do physics or those kind of things. But just because they're really good at one content area does not make them necessarily a good teacher. Just because somebody comes up with good content doesn't mean they're good at delivering it. Just because somebody can assess people doesn't mean that they know how to use those assessments in a good way. So to come full circle, good teaching is good teaching. I agree with this statement, but I think it has to be footnoted a little bit. I think there has to be some comments made on the quote that I don't think it's a good blanket statement for teaching. From the Archambault article, sorry if I'm butchering that name, the challenge is real. Third-party content creation versus dictated and prescribed content from state standardized testing. In the article, she talks about how online teachers have difficulty because they don't get to control their content. They don't get to make changes. They don't get to modify the content as is necessary. I can appreciate that as an issue with the content, but I don't see that it's much different than the teachers in the brick and mortar school who need to follow along in prescribed and dictated tutorial books and student guides and all that kind of stuff to make sure that they're hitting the state standardized testing content. I know in our school we have programs and we have books and we have everything that lay everything out day to day for the teachers, what they're supposed to cover, what they're supposed to get to, how they're supposed to teach it, and that leads into the Common Core conversation and a whole other can of worms. But like I said, I can appreciate the issues with content creation, but I don't know that they're different than what a brick and mortar teacher is going to face as well. One challenge that I can completely appreciate from the article is the face-to-face interaction. I use face-to-face interaction as a formative assessment every day. I teach woodshop as well, and I can tell just by looking at a kid whether he should be touching a machine that day or he shouldn't be touching a machine that day. Something's bothering him. He's on some sinus medication. There are things, subtle nuances, subtle body language, those kind of things that that you pick up on a kid, you know when they're having a good day, when they're not having a good day, that sometimes you just don't get that with that online teaching. Sometimes you can't pick that up, especially if you're not seeing faces, if there's no video to go along with the kids' interaction on the face, on the virtual system. It takes away some of that ability in your teaching. So online teaching, and me, I have very mixed emotions about it. I've taken 2 classes so far. This is my 3rd class that's online. I struggle with it. I feel disconnected from the class. I feel disconnected from the group. I tend to find myself forming opinions about people that may not be true, may be inaccurate, whatever. And I allow, and I feel myself allowing those biases to come in. And I can see that happening with kids that I would be teaching in an online environment. With the Project Lead the Way program, we do a virtual design challenge, and we work, my kids in my school work hand in hand with students in another school to solve an engineering design problem. And there is an online aspect to that. We work over Skype, we work over video conferencing and stuff to try to solve the problem together. And it seems great. We have some issues with it, you're working on teaching a certain amount of content, and then the next thing you know, you're dealing with technology issues and stuff like that. So time is, I feel, sometimes wasted on solving the technology issues versus just getting to the heart of what the lesson is supposed to be. So those are some of my personal feelings, just from classes that I've taken and the little bit of experience that I have doing it with Project Lead the Way. I haven't taught an actual online class, so I'm sure that there are issues, good and bad, that I haven't encountered yet. From the Parker Palmer article, the question was, we tend to put up walls, we tend to isolate ourselves from colleagues and students and content and all that kind of stuff. I don't know what's wrong with vulnerability. My take on this was that, I like it when the kids see me make mistakes. I like it when the kids see me struggle. I like it when the kids see me have to look something up, because they get to realize that that's real life. Not everybody knows everything. I can't keep up with all the content. I can't keep up with all the newest teaching strategies and teaching techniques and all of that kind of stuff. These challenges, they're always going to exist, whether it's new content, whether all of a sudden your district comes to you and says, hey, we want to teach Metal Shop now, and you haven't taught Metal Shop in 10 years, or hey, we want all of your classes to be online, and you don't know the first thing about teaching online. So I don't see that there's anything wrong with vulnerability. I embrace it. I ask my kids to embrace it. I challenge them. I want them to feel uncomfortable. I want them to see me feel uncomfortable and see that that's okay. I want them to see that there's nothing wrong with that. I watch these videos, and these commercial videos, they are a joke. They are a 30-second snippet that does nothing but try to convince people to spend their money to these schools, and that's great. I'm not taking anything away from these schools, but I think these commercials could be a little bit more in depth. I think they try very hard to hit buzzwords. They try to use words that people latch onto as being what their student needs. So the first commercial, they talked a lot about these individualized learning plans. We have those in schools. We have IEPs. I just got done signing 100 of them for the first day of school here. But the online teaching standards that would hit if that's what we're looking to do. The individualized learning plans, the standard F, the online teacher is cognizant of the diversity of student academic needs and incorporates accommodations into the online environment. Bingo, right there. Incorporates accommodations, diversity of needs. That's what they're getting at. Standard H, the online teacher develops and delivers assessments, projects, and assignments that meet standards-based learning goals and assesses learning progress by measuring student achievement of the learning goals. Again, I think this is, we're coming up with assessments, we're coming up with projects that are specifically geared towards those students. And if these schools can offer that to more students than I can in my class, then great. But I think the consumer, the parents need to be smart and be able to see that these schools aren't really offering much that we're not offering in school. Differentiation was another buzzword that they used in there. Again, it goes along with the individualized learning plans. It goes with standard I here. The online teacher demonstrates competency in using data from assessments and other data sources to modify content and guide student learning. So if you have 10 kids in a class and 5 of them, the commercial talked about, some kids are more advanced, some kids are a little bit slower to pick up concepts. As that teacher is using those assessments and figuring out who's advanced and who needs more work, if that teacher can use that formative assessment to guide their teaching in the future, then they're absolutely hitting standard I there. There was talk in the second commercial, I believe it was, about student ownership of learning. This is huge, whether it's in an online environment or in a brick and mortar school. But as far as the standards for online, I felt this was standard C. Online teacher plans, designs, and incorporates strategies to encourage active learning, application, interaction, participation, which is huge, and collaboration in the online environment. The more of this, the more a teacher can hit standard C, can really grasp that standard and become very efficient at doing it, then absolutely they're creating more student ownership in learning. And the more ownership you have in student learning, the more they're engaged, the more they're involved in the planning of their teaching and what they're going to learn. They are absolutely more interested in class, more willing to work, and ultimately more successful. So that's my presentation, guys. Feel free to comment. Hopefully I can respond to everyone. Have a nice afternoon and a good weekend.